Hello, this is the Argus C4 camera, which may or may not be a great camera. I'm not really for sure yet. The only thing I know is a good friend of mine, Jeff, found this for me at a flea market, and it does not advance frames, and the shutter appears to be stuck. So we're going to go through the process of disassembling one of these cameras and see if we can get it fixed. Not being familiar with the camera, the first thing I want to do is remove this top plate so that I can see down to how the system works. Looks like I've got some screws here up top. So the next step is going to be removing the screws that are here on the rewind side, as well as these two screws that are over here on the winder. These particular screws on this camera, one of them was loose enough I could turn, but this other one is stuck, so I'm going to show you a trick for getting these kind of unstuck. You can take your regular screwdriver, stick that on there. I like to give it a couple of taps. And then what I'll do is I'll apply a lot of pressure, like downward pressure, and I'll use a pair of needle nose pliers to get in there where I can grab that screwdriver and get, there we go, just a little bit more on it so that I could actually get it to turn. You can see now it twists freely and I'm able to remove it. And I also want to remove the screws that are holding the winder. After removing our covers, we're going to take off this little pin here with a spring on it, and then we are going to remove the top. To remove the top, you kind of can get started on one side, lifting up, and then once it's free and starts getting loose, you lift up on the other side. Now there is a set of wires down in here that connect to the flash boot up on the top. You could use a soldering iron and disconnect those if you need to, but I think for what I'm doing, I'm just going to leave this loose on the side. I shouldn't have to get into that. Well, unfortunately, it appears that the problem is actually down further in the camera. So from the top side we can see that the gears rotate, and I'm just rotating the spool with my finger, and I can go forward, but then it stops, and I can tell by this shutter, the way that it feels, that something has frozen down underneath here. That shutter is not coming back up the way that it should for the next frame. So we're going to have to go to the front of the camera and start looking in there.
For the next part, I used a hairdryer to loosen up the leather on the outside of the camera. This kind of helps the glue come apart so that you can get underneath it with a razor blade to take the piece off.
Most important thing on this particular camera, and I did some reading on it, was not to remove the speed setting. Apparently that causes some issues. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this razor blade to try to get me a place here that I can actually get this leather to just sort of back up and without it tearing. It is 60 years old, so you'll have to use some care when you do this. Alright, there we are. And you can see down here that there are a few screw holes. You may have to clean the glue out and away from them so that you'll be able to get a tool in there to turn them. You'll have to do this on both sides of the camera. Now, in order to remove this lens piece on the front, we will need to take the top back off once again. Don't forget your little washer. After removing this top piece, it's going to be necessary to remove this, and there will be a loose gear down inside of it. It does not hurt to take a cell phone and take a picture of this stuff so that you can make sure that you get them right when you put it back. I'm actually using the video thing here so that I can see what all we've got. Now that we've got those screws out of the way, I'm just going to slowly put a little bit of pressure and kind of push that way against on the body. Get this to begin to rock forward. Alright. Now I kind of move it left and right. Excellent. And I can kind of slide this back up on top. Okay, so now we can actually see all of the little guts and parts in here and how they operate and work, and try to find where this jam is located. Okay, so what the problem ended up, and it was too hard to show and record at the same time, this spring was unwound, because where it comes through down here at the bottom, there's a very small hole, and the spring came out of that hole. And so I just clipped a piece of the spring off and rebent it, and it took a little bit of time and effort, but I was able to get it through that really teeny tiny hole. As far as winding goes, as you wind up the camera and make your first revolution, you can use your finger to lift this entire piece up, and that will allow you to get past this lever down here, which is the catch. Now that we've got this like it's supposed to be, we can go through and wind it by hand and then press the shutter button, and we actually get fire. So I think this camera's fixed. Well, at least this is all we're going to do to find out if it works. I'll put some film in it, take a couple of shots and develop it. And then I will probably, if I like the pictures, I will disassemble the camera completely and do a full overhaul. I just want to see if it's worth it first.